All right, I think we should just dive into this thing. So, couple things before we dive in. One, this is a flip through first impression of You're in Space and Everything's Fucked, the demo by Nevin Holmes. So this is the demo, keep that in mind. The Kickstarter for this, the full game is in March. So I haven't read the full version of the game yet. This is just the demo that I'm going to be looking at. When the full game comes out, you better believe I'm going to devour that. We'll probably do the same thing with the full version of the game, but I wanted to do this so that folks had a chance to see how awesome this game is, so that you do back it when it goes up on Kickstarter. The second thing to note is this is by Nevin Holmes, and Nevin is a friend of mine. So it's just important to acknowledge the fact that, like, Nevin and I know each other. So it's not, this is not a random person that I've chosen their game. Nevin's a good friend of mine. I wanted to do this for them. Jam, also, who's doing the layout, did the layout for Nova. We're all, the indie RPG community is all just interwoven with one another. So that's just the full disclosure on that. Okay, so let's go back to the cover here. You're in Space and Everything's Fucked is a game that I'm very excited about because Nevin was telling me about this, I want to say, like, early last year. I don't remember when Nevin first started telling me about this game, but it's basically a extremely grim RPG, like a duet sort of game, like GM one player, to capture like true sci-fi horror sort of stuff, like Dead Space sort of vibes, as the name implies, right? I think the name tells us everything we need to know about this game. You're in space and everything is fucked. It's fantastic. It's fantastic for a name. Can't wait to actually like see what it's all about. So yeah, here's the crew. Like I said, I know most of these folks. They're great folks. So I'm excited to see what it is. This demo, you can go download it on itch. I'll make sure that the link is somewhere in the like VOD for all of this. But things to note about this. You're in Space and Everything's Fucked is a love letter to sci-fi cosmic horror and gore-filled splatter films. Put yourself into that mind space. Hopefully the title of the game put you into that mind space, but that's what we're going to be. Like I said, Dead Space is a major inspiration for this game. System Shock, the Alien franchises. If you're into any of that stuff, you're good to go. Get some D6, get some stuff to write with, find a friend, have this PDF, you're ready to rock and roll. Like I said, this is, let me move that over so that you can see it. This is kickstarting in March 7th. You should click that link when you go check this out. Again, this link will also be in the VOD for you to save that page so that you know when it's going live and you back it immediately. This demo is going to give us a lot of stuff, though. It's going to tell us how the game works, a little character creation, simplified map generation. I've seen like parts of an actual play of this. I've seen some of the character creation and stuff. It's pretty cool. Bunch of cool stuff for us to like actually play the game. Like a substantial demo. This is 22 spread, so it's like 44 pages. It's just a substantial demo. But as you can see, you're gonna get so much more when you get the Kickstarter. I remember when Nevin first told me that their plan was to do like a 2-book sort of thing. I think it's really neat, right? 2 books. You have one for the station, the GM equivalent, and one for the struggler. It's a cool way to kind of separate things out, especially because you don't want to like. You don't want to be, like, lose the surprise of a lot of this stuff. A lot of these games are about, like, the unknown and horror, right? And if you're the struggler, you don't want to know all the tricks that the GM has. So you just want to know what you can do so that when you sit down, you can experience all these sci-fi deaths. All right, let me just rearrange the size of this just slightly so it fits a little bit cleaner. Excellent. Safety first. You have to have safety tools for a game like this because it involves all of these things. Every game's going to have its own set of safety tools in terms of what they recommend. It looks like we got lines and veils and script change here that Nevin is recommending. Let's dive into how this game works. God, isn't Jam so good at layout? Isn't she, like, incredible? She's so good. And then the art, Nevin did all the art for this, which is really neat. Nevin, I know, has been working on and started doing, like, picking up art again, I think, last year. So it's cool to see that the art is making its way into the book. All right, you got 2 stats. Love that. Tech and flesh. Represents what you do. The higher a stat, the more dice you're going to start with. Excellent. Tech is going to be obviously anything that has to do with tech. Hacking, fixing doors, weapons. Flesh, that's your strength, prowess, capability. Great. Hitting things with a stick. Gonna be doing a lot of that. Get a broomstick, try and fuck off this monster sort of thing. Outrunning something horrible. Love it. All right, here's how you resolve things. It's pretty simple. If you try to do something under pressure, when it's under uncertain outcome, time for a check. The station, which is the name for the GM in this game, is in charge of declaring when a check is needed. And they establish stakes and all that sort of. And then it's a D6 dice pool system. You're going to roll, and 5s and 6s are your hits. 5s and 6s, which doesn't happen all the time, right? Doesn't happen a lot. That should immediately tell you this game is meant to be difficult to struggle. I got Clover. Clover's watching my back during this video because she knows I'm gonna get spooked by all this. Congan, good to see you. Great job on that Rune Jam submission. It's really cool. Anyway, 5s and 6s. Those are your hits. 0 hits, total failure. 1 hit is like a Pyrrhic victory, meaning like it's gonna cost you. Something bad happens still. So you're already struggling to get 5s and 6s, and even if you get 1, it's like, did you really succeed? 2+ hits is a job well done. I think that's great, right? It immediately sets the tone for what this game is gonna be about. Here's how you get those dice. D6 for each rank in the stat. You have the 2 stats, right? So if you have 2 flesh, you get 2d6. Then you get an additional one for each advantage. So if you have items and stuff like that that are relevant, minus d6 for disadvantages. And we say advantage and disadvantage, we don't mean that in terms of like the dragon game. In fact, look, there's a whole page about it right here. But it's about like things that are like in the fiction, in the narrative that makes sense, and like if any of your items and stuff. That sort of thing. And then you lose also d6 if you have any relevant wounds. So if you've been injured in a way that would like get a head injury and you're trying to like hack something, you're probably a little dazed, and so that head injury is going to slow down your hacking. But it's not like a twisted ankle isn't going to slow down your hacking, right? That's what they mean by relevant wound. Clover is barking at a monster. There's probably a monster in my house right now. Advantage and disadvantage. Just like I said, it's going to be about like narrative interpretation of this stuff. So, you know, is there a distraction? Are you hidden? Do you have the right tool for the situation? Not actually like an advantage token that is handed to you by the station that says, cash this in whenever you want to use it. It is like, does your character actually have an advantage or a disadvantage in this situation? Then you roll them. The struggler advocates for advantages, which I think is really cool because you're struggling, right? So you're going to be like, I really think I need this extra die, and here's why I think this is the case. The station gets to deny if it doesn't seem plausible. So, like, yeah, see, like, exactly. The struggler's going to be scrounging for those advantages, and they'll need to. I love this. Like, so immediately, Nevin has set the stage of, like, you're fucked, right? It's right there in the name of the game. Everything is fucked. You're going to die. You're going to need to beg for a chance. Great example. I'm so glad to see like examples of play, especially like in a demo, right? This is somebody learning how to play the game. They're about to sit down, play a unique system that they've never played before, right? What better way to help them learn it than through examples of play? So love to see that is included. All right, combat, which I assume is probably going to be handled the same way, but it might have its own things. So whether this is a combat sequence against a threat, capital threat, so that means threats are like a thing, or another kind of action sequence like a chase, checks still work the same. Excellent. Combat and other action sequences should always be a conversation. All right, so what do you want to do? How does the station react? That sort of thing. The struggler can create an advantage by taking aim, adding 1d6 to their dice pool. After aiming, though, enemies will get closer, becoming a 1d6 disadvantage on... Oh, that's really cool. That's nice. I like that a lot. Right? You're like, I'm gonna... Because it's gonna be some, like, horrible monstrosity, like this monster on the screen, right? this thing is running towards you, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna take aim, and you're really desperately hoping that that 1d6 that you're getting is gonna be the thing that like takes out the threat or slows it down, neutralizes it in some way. Because if it doesn't, you've just let an abomination get closer to you, which means it's gonna be worse for you. I think that's really clever to have the d6 disadvantage on the next turn. That's great. Monster threats also have weak points. Oh, you don't know what it is. You'll have to discover them by choosing when and where to aim in combat and hoping they hit. That's super cool too, right? I would also assume that there's probably other ways to learn about weak points that you'll get other than just aiming, just through like exploration, or like if you access the computer system and it has some sort of record of the abomination that's on the ship. Like maybe there's some scientist record from last week that tells you a weak point. Cool thing here, it says also take note of weak points, because if you find the same type of monster again, you know that thing. That's great. Yeah, of course everything's gonna come with some sort of consequence. You've designed it so, Nevin, which is great. Sounds like a method to make the struggler less fucked in their situation. Yeah, exactly, right? Like, hey, you got fucked in the past. We understand that this monster laser blasted you a whole bunch, but you did learn something, so that the next time you find another laser monster, you'll be a little less fucked. Won't that be nice? Only making checks when necessary. Love to see that in combat, or just kind of just generally speaking. Focus on failing forward. When a check hits 0 hits, any kind of consequence could happen, but it shouldn't make progress outright impossible. Right? Don't take the name of the game so literally that like the player is just slamming their head against a metal wall and not getting anywhere and not having fun, right? There's fun to be had in getting fucked. There's fun to be had in getting fucked, but sometimes it's not as fun, right? You want to make sure that it's a good time for the players involved, right? Don't make it just, you're not just there to punish them. All right, wounds. Wounds are that thing that we talked about earlier. They're relevant or irrelevant sort of thing. Many threats in space, especially within the setting. Ooh, setting is capital S. Could be a thing. Could be a thing. You're going to get hurt. You're going to track it as a wound. First wound should be something that can be patched up to be mitigated. Your first wound could be a broken foot. When I think first wound, I think like, yeah, I got like a cut across my arm or something. No, your foot's broken. There's a big ass spike through your leg. That's the first wound in this game. A second wound should be exponentially worse. Yeah, no big deal at all, right? Gorgor Big, just no biggie. These things happen. Exponentially worse. Requires special attention and could potentially permanently debilitate the struggler. Wow, so severed hand or an arm, right? Gouged eye. Stolen bones. Not broken bones. Somebody stole them from you. My bones. The third wound is final. You're dead. You're dead on your third wound. It should be awful, disgusting, and painful. Keep in mind those safety rules. Very good. Struggler's last breath, most likely at the hands and claws of a twisted monstrosity. Make it count. Whew. A face eaten. Yeah, that'll do it. Wounds can be healed, bringing them down one level with appropriate tools and time. First wound can be healed up with a med kit. A second wound, however, may require use of a special, like a medical bay or a doctor's help. Right, because like a med kit's not going to fix a severed hand. You're going to need something more intense. Cool. Back whale. I feel like if you can survive stolen bones, you can probably live without your face. Maybe. Maybe they stole the wrong bones. They didn't get the right bones from you. Will and luck. Oh, okay, cool. So we have a chance to kind of tip fate in our favor a little more. The struggler has access to 2 unique resources, will and luck, separate pools of points that they spend to avoid harm. Okay, so these are like actually resources instead of stats, right? So like flesh and tech, those are stats that determine dice pools. These sound like resources that you're going to spend. To use will or luck, the struggler marks a point used and describes what is going to happen. They're not used to hand wave a challenge. Take time and narrate how the struggler scrapes by. You use will for persevering by sheer force of mind and body. Cool, right? Makes sense. Willpower, right? Surviving an attack, landing safely, things like that. Interesting. Interesting. I didn't fully read these sentences before. I'm going to reread it here. They can be used when a check is asked for, so you can use it in a roll, right? When danger is presented, or whenever they need some good old-fashioned Deus Ex Machina. So, like, this is not necessarily something that has to be attached to a roll. You can just be like, nah, fuck this. I'm going to spend this. But you have to kind of, like, again, keep in mind the fiction, understand why you are barely scraping by through force of will or just the absolute necessary luck in a situation. They can be used to achieve most of the same results, but the fictional situation described should always reflect the type of point being used. Yeah, right? I love that. Did you die at work again? Don't forget to recycle all your remains. Thanks, management. Save points. I remember Nevin telling me about these. This is very cool. It's a video game, right? I mean, it's inspired by, like, Dead Space, right? And in Dead Space, the character dies horribly again and again. But it's not the end of the game when that happens for you, right? You get to keep playing. So, save points. Specific rooms of the map placed by the station or struggler where the struggler is safe from danger can save their progress, right? Because if you die, you're going to respawn. When you respawn, the struggler keeps any marks and gets to choose one item in their possession and any ammo to keep. You lose everything else. But it's not that it disappears into the ether. It's there on your corpse. You just gotta go get it. But that also means probably whatever killed you is still there too, right? So that's where, like, the whole weak points thing comes in, right? This is very clever. This is very clever. Like, you go in, you find a horrible monstrosity, you take aim, you figure out a weak point, it kills you, you lose everything, but you respawn, you have a slightly better chance of just fighting that thing to start because you know its weak point, and also you know where it is. So maybe you take, like, a slightly different path, you find some ways to prep yourself so that when you do face that thing to try and get to your corpse, you know, you're slightly better off. As the station, you should place save points throughout the map as a way to control pacing. Have them at hub points. Excellent. When a room has no active threats, the struggler will spend either a point of will or luck to turn it into a permanent save point. Oh, that's cool. So, like, the station can dictate where the save points are, but the struggler can also do that. They just have to spend some of their resource. That's a cool back and forth. A bit of communal map building going on there with that. Like, it's up to the station to be doing it, pacing it appropriately, but if the struggler doesn't agree with that pacing, they're like, no, sorry, there's nothing in this room. Actually, luck has it, there's a save station here. That's very cool. This is also very cool. There's no, like, explanation for why the save station works. So, like, is it a cloning thing? Is it a 3D printer? You're actually in a video game. It's very clever, right? How you get to decide why the save point works at all. Creating the struggler. Who the F are you? Who are you? Well, you're in space. You don't have to decide everything, right? So let this happen through play, right? Like, you might have a general sense of who you are, but you'll figure it out over time also, a little bit more. Out of luck teamster, engineer way in over their head, janitor with no idea what's going on, right? You're just mopping up a floor, then you turn around and then everyone's dead and there's monsters in the ship. Bummer, right? That's very cool. You have a name, have pronouns, but if you can't come up with anything else, don't worry about it, right? You're gonna die a bunch, and through death, you'll discover yourself. You have to have a background. The background's really important to you because it's one of the few things you can call on to get advantage in rolls. That was mentioned earlier, right? You have, like, relevant items, if you know, like, weak points and stuff, but also, like, if your background is relevant, it will help you in certain situations. So, like, here's some example backgrounds: minor, engineer, criminal, but also, like, superstar, which is cool. There you go. Right now, that could possibly be the thing that saves you in a terrible situation in the future. All right, let's make a struggler. Look at yourself. After you have your background, yeah, I'm gonna be a miner. I'm gonna say I'm a miner. There's mining something. Space rocks. Love space rocks. After you have your background, describe your look. Few words to describe yourself. You don't have to be overly detailed. And again, right? You want to figure this all out. Influencers in space. That actually is very funny to be an influencer in space. Whatever version of TikTok is popular in the far future, that's what I am. I'm really good at that. Right? You have a sample look. Just like a nice tight sentence. Know who you are. 2 stats. 2 points to assign to tech and/or flesh. That's it. When building a dice pool for a check, you'll see how many points you have in a stat and add that many dice, right? You only have 2 points, which means like 1 and 1. Or I hope I can solve everything with tech or flesh. That's so brutal. Bad Quail, that's very funny. Maybe chat knows the monster's weak spot, right? Like, you're a space influencer, and you're calling on chat. You're like, chat, I'm currently in the airlock right now with this thing. What do you know about this thing? That's very good. You get 5 will and 2 luck at least to start. All right, so you get that. So you have some points to spend there, but whew, that's rough. I think I would obviously, I would do a 1-on-1 if I was a miner, right? I know how to use tech, but I'm also probably somewhat in shape. Mining. Your best friend, unique tool, and if you're lucky, a variety of other useful items. Especially useful item you equip yourselves with at the start of play. One of the first scenes should be the struggler finding or gaining access to their starting equipment. To determine your unique tool, either extrapolate one together with the station situation while keeping in mind the background, or generate one using the thing. Yep, I want to generate one right now. Page 40. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Alright. My tool of choice is so I'm going to roll 2d6 here. 6 and 5 is a bulky welder. I got a big old bulky welder called the Little Marshall Limited Edition. Oh wait, that's a D20 I rolled. That wasn't gonna help me very much. 8. I have a large welder called the Little Marshall Limited Edition 8. No, 13. Sorry, I'm not good at Roman numerals. It's a piece of overrated garbage. Overrated garbage that launches dice. Oh wait, launches and dices. That makes more sense. Launches things? I have a welder that launches things. It's kind of terrifying. And it also dices things. Does it weld? Absolutely not. Like I said, it's overrated garbage. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It launches shit and dices shit. It uses liquid plasma. And it does 2 damage. All right. So I'm launching liquid plasma things. I'm dicing things up with plasma. I'm imagining I've got a big overrated welder that doesn't do it all what it's supposed to do. And it's called the Little Marshall Limited Edition 13. That's great. I love my weapon. Besides the pocket lint, you also have some other stuff. When you get this thing, you may also find additional items alongside it. Make a standard check to see how many hits you get. Then find the column of that. Oh, cool. There's a search table. So you can figure out if I get some extra stuff when you find it. This is the thing that I'm really excited about, is this mapping thing. because you can like either, from what I remember, you can either like pre-map it or map it together at when you're there at the table. Again, Nevin's art is awesome, and you combine it with Jam's layout, and it's just a really good looking book, right? It's a really good looking book. A big part of what makes survival horror work is the buy-in from players. We go into it knowing it's going to be tough, and there's going to be some backtracking, weird puzzles. It's not going to be difficult. Right, exactly. It should be hard. The game is called you're fucked, right? Everything's fucked. The struggler finds themselves in the middle of a series of truly awful events. You're in space, and everything's fucked. Start the game from 0, randomly generating the game setting as the struggler progresses. Cool. Sector-based structure should be kept in mind for the setting, though. Each setting has its core system split between sectors and decks. Okay. Excellent. Generating rooms. When you open a door to a new place, roll 2d6. On a 2 through 10, generate a room via the room table. On 11 and 12, roll a d3 on the set pieces table. Proceed accordingly. So set pieces are probably like substantial rooms, like things that wouldn't be procedurally generated, like maybe, I don't know, maybe like the bridge of the ship or something. Like something that's substantial. I mean, we'll see when we get to page 25. So, like, let's just generate a quick room real quick. Yeah, we're going to roll on this table here. It's a monstrous flesh room with windows to space. So I open up the door with my shitty welder, open it up, and it's a monstrous flesh room. But don't worry, I get a great view of space while I'm here. Terrifying. Allowing the room type to inform the surrounding areas. If you generate a bunk private quarters in a sector you've described as a research lab, then perhaps you describe the eerily sterile living quarters with neatly made beds. Yeah, exactly, right? You got that sort of stuff to back you up. The station always has free reign to add a room that they feel fits the area being explored, right? That makes sense. Set pieces are special events that occur randomly as the struggler explores. From high-stakes action to suspicious encounters. Ooh, oh, so it's not necessarily like a place, it's an event. My dog. Take the set piece, they might be friendly, for example. You introduce a non-player character to the struggler, and it's up to you as the station to not only decide if they're truly friendly, but also how to present the situation. Very cool. Very cool. So, like, here's some example set pieces, right? Suspended upside down. Something grabs you by your ankle and flips you, swinging you around as you fend off 1d3 waves of 1d6 threats. You can also try cutting yourself free. Truly a nightmare situation, right? A swarm, a spacewalk, so you suddenly have to go out into space. That's super, super cool. When a set piece room is generated, mark one of its squares or take note elsewhere that it's been used. If all squares are filled in on a given set piece, the station may choose the next available one above or below it numerically. So like this lets us know that like you would experience the swarm a number of times, right? That's telling us that swarms are going to be a thing that happen a lot on this particular space station. And you'll have to like go into space a couple times. But this is a one and done thing. It's going to be a truly memorable moment because you're only going to do it that one time. Look at that little guy. This is a very cute little guy. All right, exploration. As you explore, you got to look around. Once a room's generated, its doors open and whatever's inside is presented. While you can roleplay whatever the struggler ideas and behavior you'd like, there are specific actions with mechanical outcomes you should keep in mind. You have to engage with threats, or you may engage with threats. You can sneak through, so probably would do a lot of sneaking. Just because it sounds like you're going to die a lot. Maybe you can die slightly fewer times. You can rest if a room is full of threats, taking time to collect yourself. Nice, right? Also, opportunity probably to use any of those healing stuff. You can search for stuff. Cool. There's like a specific check for finding things, so maybe you're going to find some items. That could be really nice. Or reinforce the room to keep new threats from entering. Yeah, because you might be on the run. And you get into a room. Thankfully, there's no threats in that room, so it gives you a second to like board up the door behind you before people come in. This is kind of fun. After a room is generated before you enter it, you can avoid it. You peek in, you see the flesh monster inside, and you're like, nah, I'm out. Fuck that. No thanks. This is great. What a great spread this is. Threats. Anything that puts the struggler in danger. 4 categories. Hazards, robots, people, and monsters. Oh, cool. Hazards. I mean, that makes sense. Cracked windows, moving machinery, stuff like that. Robots, non-sentient machines. Robots have no weak points. Of course not. They're machines. No weaknesses in machines. And are near impossible to halt outright. You should have 2 to 4, or they should have 2 to 4 HP depending on how much you want to challenge the struggler. Alright, so mean machines. People include humans, aliens, and sentient machines. Anything the struggler could have a conversation with. Cool, I like that, right? If you can converse with it, it's people. Not every threat in this category needs to be hostile. This is your chance to actually like create NPCs. Like, it doesn't have to be the struggler is the only person left on the ship, station, whatever, right? Like, there could be other people who may or may not be your friend. Monsters. Obviously, this is going to be probably primarily what you're throwing at people. Again, it depends on like the theme of what you're going for with your thing, but I imagine you're going to probably be throwing a lot of these because this is where you have, you know, weak points, right? So this is where the whole learning thing, this is clearly it's a horror game. You want some monsters. The struggler needs to be careful, clever, and conscious of their path to survival in order to stand a chance against monsters. Here's the thing I want to shout out about this demo and just generally the layout. I like these like standout bolded sentences. They help a ton. Like they just like bring your attention immediately to something that you need to know. Like I just think it's a really nice thing to have it like at the beginning of paragraphs. It just like tells you immediately what this paragraph is about and what you need to know. It's a nice touch. Monsters. Here's some demo monsters. We're not going to read through all of these, but there are some great examples. Let's roll a d6 and read through one of them. What do we say? All right, I got a 2. All right, so number 2. 2 HP. It has 5 limbs. It's human-ish in terms of size. It's metal fused in terms of its body. Pustules are its weak point. Its behavior is that it's a stalker, so this thing's going to follow us around. And it flies. A metal-infused, humanish-sized, 5-limbed flying thing that's gonna stalk us, but if I can find its pustules, I can fuck it up. Nightmarish. Immediate transformation caught a poor sap right as a room collapsed, leading to parts of metal fusing with the body of this once human terror. It uses claws and metal wings to climb around, stalking its target before gliding in to strike. Gross. Gross and good. So there's 6 of these right here for you to use. And then here's some boss monsters as well. Hell yes. Sometimes a normal monster isn't enough. Unique one-off threats that you can face. After the first full objectives, or the first set piece is finished, whichever comes first, roll 3d6 to determine the starting value of the boss countdown. Oh! Every time the struggler passes through a room, lower the countdown by 1. Ooh, that's good. That's good. When the countdown is decreased halfway, begin foreshadowing the boss in the distance. It's fully decreased. Generate a boss monster per the instructions on the next page. That's great. So you go through the set piece. It's a memorable event, and you're like, survived it. But secretly, the station, aka the GM, is like, motherfucker, it's not over. I'm planning your demise here, right? So I just rolled 4, 4 to 2. You go through 10 more rooms, it's pain time. You go through 5 more rooms, and I'm going to start scaring you. Very cool. In the full release, there are steps to generating unique, intense boss monsters by expanding on regular monster generation. Cool. In the demo, here are some example boss monsters. A space snake. Yep. The classic space snake, or a corridor of flesh, or a cosmic hell thing. Great. I love that the body of the cosmic hell thing is meat and hate. The 2 things that fuel us all. Great. Items. Tuck between and destroy tables. You gotta find stuff. It's the video game to RPG pipeline that I love to follow is being followed so perfectly by this game. This is again why I love Nevin and everything that they make. Items come in 3 varieties. Utility, limited number of uses. Defensive, hey, you might actually survive some stuff. And offensive, let you take the fight back to the threats, but it may not be universally effective. Guns, baseball bats, things like that. Cool. Offensive items do 1 to 3 damage. I have my overrated garbage launching welder machine that does 2 damage. More damage it is, the bigger and slower it is. Cool. Things like guns or laser weapons will require some kind of ammo. Right. It should. You're not going to just have a space revolver that you can use infinitely. Keep things moving. Don't worry too much about counting the ammo that's loaded into a weapon every step. Mess with them with checks. Armor, on the other hand, is used to prevent damage. Every piece of armor has a durability 1 to 3. When the struggler uses armor to prevent a wound, its durability is lowered 1. Great, because we already know wounds are terrifying, right? 3 wounds and you're dead. So, even just getting an armor that has a value of 1 and protecting you from a wound, like a level 1 wound, is really, really helpful. Especially since we know that level 1 wounds are like a broken foot. It's quite nice to have that sort of stuff. Cool. And then here's some example items for you. None of the items listed in You're in Space should be considered exhaustive, of course, right? Create something for your setting. Objectives. We heard about this earlier. I'm glad to know what they are now. Objectives are shorthand for the next important thing we need to do in fiction. All right? Finding a way into engineering, planting the acid bomb in the necroblob's mouth, that sort of thing. Make puzzles, not solutions. Oh, that's interesting. So the station can always come up with the next steps, but should never outright tell the struggler how something needs to be done, right? Like, here's the thing. Here's the box, the puzzle box. I will let you play with this puzzle box. I'm going to tell you how to solve it yourself. You may not have an objective right away. You can find it through exploration, which is very good. When the struggler gets a new objective, don't mark it on the map. Instead, take note of the general direction it's in from where they are. This information is presented to the struggler as a vague directional waypoint. It keeps them roughly on track while still allowing you as the station some flexibility. That's very good, right? Because if you say it's in this room and just like that, they get to that room and it just kind of doesn't fit with the flow of where you're going, you're like, I guess this is where the necroblob is and you have to put the acid bomb in it. Give yourself that flexibility. When a new objective appears or becomes active, roll 2d6 plus 2. The result is the number of rooms you need to pass through to get to the objective. Great. Excellent. When you generate an objective, you roll 1d3 to determine how many minor objectives it has. Oh, I love this. So it's a quest with subquests. Minor objectives can be in any room. Don't draw it. Play with difficulty. After generating an objective, work with the struggler to determine what the minors are, the minor objectives. That's super cool. Here's our good old unique tool generator. We made our really fun welder. The search table. Oh, so here, this is the table that you would use when you are searching. So first, make a check and see how many hits you get. Then find the column for that amount of hits and roll 2d6 to see what item you find. So remember, checks are 5s and 6s that you get on something. So I'm going to just roll, assuming that I have 2 dice, right? Like I have 1 in the stat, like I have 1 tech, and I have an item that is helping me, or some sort of advantage that has afforded me a 2nd die. So let's see how many hits I get if I were to search for something, and what I would be able to find. I rolled a 3 and a 2, which means I got 0 hits. 5s and 6s are the things that hits, which means I can only find these things, right? So, ammunition, station's choice, a stim jet, a note, slapdash noise maker. That's all I can find, right? You need to roll 2+ hits to get to these like nice things. Like, ooh, a pocket nurse. Heals level 1 wound, use 2 to heal level 2. That's super nice, right? But I also like that there's just things like this, like useful materials. What are they for? It's not necessarily a mechanical thing, but maybe you need it to make that acid bomb that you're going to put into the necro blob. That's fantastic. That's super, super cool. I can imagine having a lot of fun rolling on the search table and just really finding trash time and time again. But that one time you do find something really, really nice, it's gonna make you feel good, right? Just like in Dead Space or in any other horror game like this, where it's I found something and this is finally the thing that I need. So that's the flip through of You're in Space and Everything's Fucked. It's kind of my first thoughts and impressions about it. I am super excited about this. It looks fantastic. I mean, yes, like visually it looks fantastic because Nevin and Jam are an unbelievable duo. But it sounds great, right? Like, I think Nevin has captured the elements of these kind of like survival, sci-fi, horror stuff so nicely. It has those elements of video game-ness of you've got save points and you've got like your signature weapon, right? This is my thing, right? It's my character's thing, and like searching for loose items and things like that. But also it also has the capacity to feel very movie-like, I think, as well, in terms of how this plays out. There's a question as if there's a solo mode for this. I don't think there is. I think this is intended for a two-player thing. But who knows? Maybe in the full version there will be something for something like that. I'll say this. So we went through the demo. Here's a rundown of what you'll get if you're interested in this and you want to see... Oh, there's Nevin right here in chat. 2 or more players. Oh, that's actually kind of interesting. That Nevin has said 2 or more. So you could play around with the idea of having maybe multiple strugglers. That's pretty cool. So maybe you don't want to get fucked in space alone. Maybe you want to get fucked in space with a friend. Bring somebody along with you. That's cool. I like that a lot. So this demo's, like I said, it's free. The link will be in the description. But also the link to the Kickstarter. And if you back the Kickstarter, remember, March 7th, mark your calendars. Here's all the cool stuff that you're going to get. You're going to get 2 books, right? You get the Station and the Struggler. Expanded sections for everything in the game, right? So, like, already there's a lot to play with in this substantial demo. You're going to get even more stuff. Good old table guidance, love that. And design commentary. I'm super into that. As a designer, I like to see design commentary in games. I like to have people tell me why they have made things the way that they have. More threats. Great. I mean, you've already got a pretty good list here, but a system for generating monsters and boss monsters. Sci-fi death tables. I think this is going to be the first table I flip to when I get my copy. It's going to be, all right, how does Nevin want me to die? Right? Because we've seen some examples of the wounds. I want to see some real gnarly sci-fi deaths. Random map generation, super excited about that. That's the thing that I'm really interested in seeing is the tech that goes into the map making, because you're not supposed to sort of pre-gen this thing, but you're building it together. So I can't wait to see kind of the setup for what that looks like, to sit down and mark out rooms and, you know, scrawl quick notes on the map to like remember where things are and put a little skull in every single room that I've died in. Visceral art, amazing layout, of course, and much, much more. As Nevin has alluded to here in chat, 2 or more players, which sounds awesome. So folks, if you enjoyed this stream, if this sounds awesome, you can go download this demo on itch right now. You can go play it. It's going to be awesome. And then save that Kickstarter link. Go back the game on March 7th when it goes live. Let's throw a huge amount of support at Nevin and Jam and the whole crew, because they're wonderful people, and this sounds like a really freaking good game. So that's it for the first impressions flip through stream. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a great time flipping through it. I feel like I'm ready to get murdered time and time again. I'll catch you all later. See ya.